Hi there, this is Carly with the North Dakota Brain Injury Network. Today we're going to do the memory tip sheet. So the intent of this is for you to have your tip sheet out in front of you and to follow along with me. Make notes if you feel like you need to, but this is just kind of to explain that tip sheet a little more thoroughly to you. So memory following a brain injury. So let's first talk about what memory means. Memory is our ability to retain previously experienced sensations, information, and ideas. Memory impairments make it difficult to recall, organize, or process information. Memory impairments can arise from difficulty in the encoding, storage, or retrieval of information. So it can be an area in one of these that is kind of glitchy, basically. And so oftentimes people with brain injury will talk about their long-term memories are a little more intact, but it's their short-term memories that are more affected by brain injury. And that can be to do with that encoding and that storage and that retrieval piece. The brain kind of panics and doesn't know where to put it basically after brain injury, and so it struggles with where to pull it out from basically. So there's a lot that goes into our memory. We have sensory memory, so our hearing, our vision, our taste, our touch, our smell, all of that goes in really quickly without us even really realizing it, and that goes into our short-term memory, and that can last a few minutes to hours. And then it kind of goes into our working memory where it decides, is this important? Am I going to store this in my long-term memory or not? And then it decides, that working memory is kind of where it pulls information out of from our long-term memory. So memory is a very complicated process that happens really quickly without us even realizing, but it's kind of nice to explain it to people and to know that the short-term memory is what's really impacted by brain injury. And so we want to mostly address strategies that related to short-term memory. Some things to look for if someone is struggling or if you are struggling with memory impairment is inconsistency with steps of tasks or daily activities. Okay, so that's why we place such an importance on routine, is so that we are consistent with those tasks, but oftentimes we forget because we can't remember, right? Oftentimes there's difficulty recalling previously learned information. So again, that retrieval piece is glitchy. And typically it's more of the things we learned after our injury or that are more recent to us in our short-term memory that are difficult to recall. A lot of people will tell you their long-term memory too, but it's not like the movies where they forget everything from their long-term memory. They might just forget bits and pieces, especially the accident itself oftentimes gets forgotten about. And yeah. Another thing to look for is difficulty learning new information, as I've talked about several times. So learning new information, we really want to make sure that it's as visual as possible and utilizes as many of those sensory components that we talked about when we're learning something new. Another thing to look for, organizing several pieces of information can be difficult after brain injury. So yeah. And then oftentimes someone with brain injury may appear inattentive, mentally foggy, forgetful. So it looks like they're not paying any attention, but it's actually probably more of their memory. They're not remembering what was going on. Another thing, they often lack follow through with activities or instructions. So completing tasks and getting things done can often be blamed on attention as well as memory. So some accommodations for memory. You want to keep things like your keys, your wallet, your papers in one designated location. You can call it a command center, you can call it your brain on a string, whatever you want to call it, but keep everything in one spot. So that way your brain isn't going through multiple pathways to try to remember where you put it. Another thing we talk a lot about is touch it once. So let's say I get my mail, and I'm going to open my mail, and then I'm going to put it in the same spot every time, so that when I'm going back to find that bill that I need to pay, my brain only has to retrace one pathway rather than multiple pathways. Setting reminders for yourself is an example of a compensatory strategy. Oftentimes after brain injury, we struggle to remember. So sometimes we need to do reminders, whether it be post-it notes, timers, alarms. Now on iPhones anyways, you can set an alarm and also tell yourself what that alarm is for. I know I had a client that struggled with that. She would have alarms set throughout her whole day, but then would forget what that alarm was for when it would go off. And so now it's super helpful that they allow you to note what your alarms are for. You want to write down things more in more than one spot. So like a paper calendar and your phone. Anytime we can try to trace those pathways as many times as we can is beneficial. So putting things in multiple spots can help you remember. Keeping a journal. At the end of each day, write down what you accomplished and what you would like to accomplish the next day. That can be a really helpful memory tool. And then you have that journal to go back and look at and see if there's anything you forgot about, or you can also kind of empower yourself too about all the things that you have remembered. Another accommodation for memory is to try a new skill or language to improve that working memory, learning languages especially. Babbel.com helps you learn languages. There's Rosetta Stone. There's all kinds of things. There's free YouTube videos out there where you can learn phrases and things like that. Yeah, or just a new skill, something you haven't ever really tried before, can really challenge your memory and improve that working memory. Label items in your home, so cupboards, rooms, perishable foods with the date when it was opened and prepared is important as well, because you might forget when you ate that or when you ordered that or when you were at that restaurant. So make sure you're labeling and keeping things safe. We want to schedule reoccurring appointments for the same day and time each week. And another tip to add on to that is that if you need to cancel, don't reschedule, just cancel. Especially if it's a weekly appointment. Missing a week is going to be better for your brain than to try to remember rescheduling it, because then it will kind of throw you off for the week after. So you want to try to have those reoccurring appointments for the same time and day each week. NDBin has some great resources on our website that you can find to help with memory. So I know this information needed by emergency care providers can also be helpful to bring with you to doctor's appointments, so that you don't always have to constantly be remembering different things. It can be just really helpful to have a sheet with you that has all your information, especially dates of incidences and things can get forgotten about. So having that nicely logged can be helpful. Another resource we have on our website that is printable and available is our weekly meal plan. So this is, planning out your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner. What are you going to have for each of those meals? And then going through your cupboards and deciding what things you need to buy, and maybe making some notes about it too, and bringing that to the store with you. You don't necessarily have to do pen and paper. You can do this electronically. I know I use my notes section on my phone to do my weekly meals, my weekly shopping lists, and then as I put them in my cart, I delete them off my notes section on my phone. So then when my notes is empty, then I know I'm done shopping, right? It's a good budget helper too. So you're not buying things you don't need. Another way to do this that Rebecca talks about is just taking a picture of your cupboards or your fridge. And then when you get to the store, you can zoom in and see, is there milk in the fridge? If there's not, I need to buy more. That can be a really simple strategy if you're not one that likes to write things down. Here's another one that's helpful for all your medications. I know a lot of people end up on a lot of different medications, and so keeping track of those on a sheet like this can be really helpful. Keeping track of your sleep can be also helpful and a good way to combat fatigue. Excuse me. But you can also bring this into the doctor too. If you're seeing a doctor about sleep interruption or sleep is an area of struggle for you, this tracker can be really helpful for that. There's also online apps and things like that to track sleep as well. So it's important to remember to not push yourself too hard. Take these accommodations one step at a time. Try them, I always suggest once a month into implementing a new strategy. So one of those new accommodations, and see if it works. If it doesn't, try a new one or try to tweak it a little bit. Talk to someone about why it might not be working for you. But it's not going to happen overnight. As we've said before, brain injury is a chronic condition, and there's definitely ups and downs and ins and outs, and just being patient can go a long way. So if you need anything, here's how to get a hold of us. We have that 855-866-1884 or our website, ndbin.org, and you can shoot us an email that way. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.